After publishing advice which shocked commentators across the political spectrum, today we're asking the question, is the government too soft on asylum? With me right now, Sun columnist Colin Robertson. Colin, we've seen the document where asylum seekers are told about domestic abuse rules, gender roles and consent laws. What's your view on what's happening?
Well, I mean, this is jaw-dropping stuff, isn't it? I mean, we've come a long way from keep Britain tidy. We're now saying don't rape our women, don't mutilate the genitals of our children, etc., etc. I mean, it's incredible that this stuff has come out. It's like something from an episode of Brass Eye, that the government thinks it necessary to put this out. It makes you wonder, like, what else are they worried about? You know, why on earth are they putting this out there? You know, I mean, there's a lot of people who feel vindicated by their anger at the fact that, you know, a lot of these people who come over on the boats have been proven to be quite dangerous. You remember the Bell Hotel incident, etc., etc. There's a lot of backlash against those people, sort of saying your fears are unjustified. And now, fast forward a few months, and we've got the government putting out these extraordinary guides saying, don't, you know, abide by British standards and don't rape, don't do this, don't do that. I mean, it beggars belief.
So do you think the government are too soft on asylum seekers?
I think they know they're too soft, and that's why they put these things out.
OK, well, in an exclusive interview with the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, she told us they have got some big plans coming. Have a look at this.
Was Labour wrong, do you think, to scrap the Rwanda scheme? And are any conversations happening on return hubs at the moment?
Well, look, it was the incoming Labour government, rightly, who said that the Rwanda plan that the Tories had was not working and did not work. What is being discussed by other European countries are different models that they are considering. We are also looking at third country hubs.
That full interview is available on the Sun's YouTube channel. Colin, your reaction to that? It's not Rwanda, but it does look like a third destination could be involved in the current planning from the government.
Well, it's nothing at the moment, isn't it? It's a suggestion, it's an idea. She's not put any meat on the bones at all. I mean, we've kind of heard some of these ideas before, but until we actually see a plan in place, then we've got nothing, have we? They don't want to do Rwanda. Fine, you don't want to do Rwanda. What do you want to do? She's hinting that they might do something, but let's hear it, because something's got to be done.
OK, Emily Hewartson is a Conservative campaigner. Jennifer Nadal is from Compassion in Politics, and they are both with us right now. Jennifer, I'll come to you first. Just initially, your reaction to everything you've heard, not only from Colin, but also from the Home Secretary.
Well, I think this leaflet that's been released today is a real own goal by the government. I'm sure they thought they would reassure the public, because there is a lot of prejudice at the moment about this ridiculous idea that somehow there are more rapists amongst the refugee population than amongst the general population. But it has made it look like they're incredibly concerned about asylum seekers and their gender norms. I would say it also includes rules on wolf whistling and harassment in the street, and that's a bit of training that maybe some of my male colleagues that I pass on the street every day could do with. So I think that's an own goal by the government, and I think the government is really struggling because it has to make it look like it's tough on asylum seekers. They've read the polls. They know that Reform is doing a very good job of whipping up hate and concern and fear around those who claim asylum. So it needs to look like it's being tough, and floating the idea of a Rwanda-like scheme, they think will make them look like they're tough. But the reality of the Rwanda scheme was it cost £150,000 a head of taxpayers' money. So if we're wanting to save taxpayers' money, there are some much better ways of doing that.
Emily, your reaction. I guess the question is, has this just made it worse for asylum seekers? Has this created more hostility? Because, as Jennifer points out, there are men that commit acts of sexual assault in every area of society.
Yeah, I completely agree that there are men all throughout every society in the world, unfortunately, that do commit heinous crimes. But if you look at some of the guidance, for example, against FGM, we know FGM is not a practice that is prevalent in Britain amongst the British people. And I think this guidance really feels like a lot of vindication for a lot of people who have raised concerns for a long time now about the fact that we are allowing so many undocumented, largely men, into this country, and we simply do not know their history. And I also find it very interesting that we've heard a potential new approach from this government now. Clearly, smashing the gangs isn't quite going far enough, and lo and behold, you do actually need a deterrent. And I think that's what we're seeing with this proposal of potentially involving a third place country.
You know, the point about this is that if Labour are now starting to talk about Rwanda plan, this is what's happening a lot with Labour, is we find that they were throwing all these brickbats at the Tory party and saying no to this, no to that, that's bad, etc., etc. And as soon as they're in power, they realise actually there is a problem here and we need real solutions to make it work. So they had great opposition to the Rwanda plan, which is why it ended up in the Supreme Court. And now here we are, them thinking, well, actually, maybe we do need a solution like that. So they're talking about, and if you listen to the interview, they're talking about places perhaps in Europe and other destinations around the world. So the idea they're on board with, let's see some meat on the bones. Let's see some progress on that, because something's got to give. You know, I mean, why on earth are we at the point where they're putting out leaflets and it's not, I mean, actually reading these leaflets is quite, it makes you feel proud to be British, because it tells you all the things you cannot do in this country. And they're all incredibly sensible. And you think, what a wonderful country we live in, which has, you know, respect for all genders and faiths and all the rest of it. But we've got to tell these people they've got to behave in a certain way. It's just extraordinary.
So
can I also point out that I just want to point out that I thought some of the language on the guidance was very interesting. The Home Office actually said if you commit any of these offences, you could be arrested and could be deported, which I find absolutely shocking. Surely that should be the default option.
There's got to be a red line. You do this, you're out. Full stop.
Well, let me ask you this. And anyone can pick this up. Is this leaflet, do you think, created because this is information that the asylum seekers need and therefore sort of reasonable? You'd rather people were told stuff than not told stuff? Or has it been created for people on the outside, people that live in the United Kingdom and are worried and want to know that the government is doing something? Is this a political move or is it a necessary move?
Well, it's. I mean, if you listen to Andy Burnham today, he would say it's a necessary move because we need people to understand the country that they're going to, and that the British culture is different to perhaps the cultures that they've come from. A lot of them are coming from Islamic countries where women are just treated differently, quite badly, in fact, in some places. So there is a kind of necessity for it, but you've got to ask yourself how on earth have we got to the point where we've got to point this stuff out to people? Who are these people? Where are they coming from? Why are we getting them in and having to give them these leaflets in the first place? And that's what they're not dealing with here. So, I mean, Jennifer's right. This has blown up in their face a bit.
Jennifer, 70,000 foreign nationals have been deported since Labour took charge. Of those 70,000, 10,000, according to government figures, are criminals that have committed crimes like murder and rape. Do you think Labour are doing enough? Those numbers indicate a 36% increase on the 21 months before Labour took charge.
They are definitely beginning to make headway, and we are seeing a drop in the number of people who are staying in the system, and we're also seeing more people being returned to France as a result of doing a deal with France. Of course, we had that ability to return before Brexit, but let's not get onto Brexit right now. So I think Labour is doing much better than the previous government, but that doesn't mean there's still a lot more to be done. I mean, you say, are we being soft on asylum seekers? Those who are in accommodation that provide meals have just £5 a week to live on. They're not allowed to work. Many of them would love to work and give back to this country that has taken them in and is considering their claim. They're not allowed to work. They have to manage on £5 a week. They have to pay bus fares to get to their solicitor, toiletries. Imagine if you're a woman, you've got your period, or you're a bloke, you need toothpaste, you need to shave. All of these things.
That's not strict. I mean, let me just jump in there very quickly. That's not strictly true, is it, Jennifer? They're not paying all these bus fares and everything out the £5 that they're being given. We've had incidents where people have been taken in private taxis hundreds of miles across the country to their doctor's appointments.
That's exactly why, because they've got no way of getting to their solicitor because they have no funds. So I think personally that if they've come here,
well, that's treating them quite softly, isn't it? By saying, get in a cab, we'll take you to a hospital appointment. That's what we're talking about here. Are they treated softly? There's other benefits than just the money on the card.
So what's the corollary of that, Sam? Are you saying that if someone's sick and they're an asylum seeker, they should just be left to get sicker? That's the problem with an inefficient system, that they have no way of getting someone to a hospital appointment. But, out of that £5 a week, they also have to communicate. They have to, be able to stay in touch with their family, let them know whether they're safe. They need to make appointments. Who here, I would challenge any Sun reader to say whether they could manage on £5 a week and not. We know that many of those asylum seekers are going without food. and are actually hungry, and we're a civilized country. So let's treat those until we know whether or not they're genuinely have a claim. Let's treat them well. You know, I'm a big believer in that old rule, do as you would be done by. Let's treat other people as we would like to be treated, and let's give them the chance to earn their own money and give back to this society, not keep them suspended on no money and you know, in fear for their future.
But respectfully, that's a really ideal way to look at things, because I completely agree. I have compassion for these people. And one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about stopping the boat crossings is because I don't want people to continue to risk their lives. But you do have to also understand that the system is completely overwhelmed. At the height of asylum hotels, the British taxpayer was paying £9 million a day. If you try and tell that to people that are really suffering from the cost of living crisis, it does seem unfair that you can come here illegally and be entitled to free accommodation and money from the government.
I'm going to read you some comments and then we can react to those.
Emily.
I'm going to leave it with you saying that you agree, Jennifer. I'm going to read some comments. So Steve Sewell says, our children will never be safe while this debate continues. I don't think he means this debate. I think he means the wider conversation. Do you think that's fair, Colin?
Look, I mean, let's not get too carried away. Not every single bloke that comes across on a small boat or by any other means is going to go out and rape people and do all these dreadful things that these documents are warning about and saying, you know, don't do all this sort of stuff. That's simply not the case. But the fact is that some are, and enough are for the government to decide to put this stuff out, and that's the worrying thing.
Jennifer, Sarah Giles has commented something I think is what you were getting at earlier, which is if Labour want to get tough, bring in a solid asylum system, and if it's not followed, you don't get in or you're instantly deported. And I suppose that's what everybody wants, a system that makes sense and is fair for everybody, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
which we don't have.
And at the moment, there is no legal way of getting to Britain to claim for asylum. So if you are being persecuted and you are fleeing in fear of your life, the only way to get here is to risk your life on one of those small boats or some other illegal way. So we need to have much firmer rules, but we also need to have a system that enables those who are genuinely fleeing fear and persecution. I speak from my own experience here. My dad was a child refugee. He came to this country when he was 14 and he was fleeing the Nazis, and under today's framing, he would be seen as a young man. What's he doing in this country? There'd be suspicion around him.
Emily, I'll throw this one to you. CV says, so the government's admitting there's a problem, not putting a lid on this anymore. Something needs to change fast. Get tough.
Look, I give credit where credit is due. I think Labour are realising that, you know, simply smashing the gangs doesn't go far enough. But I think that a lot of people are feeling very concerned about this guidance. I agree that the government probably did it in a way to reassure people. But actually, it's very concerning that we're having to tell people that are coming to this country that not to, you know, sexually assault our women and our girls. That is genuinely quite scary for people. And I think, you know, for example, I've been to Spain recently. That's probably why I've got a nice tan at the moment. I had to provide all of my fingerprints. I had to provide my photo. Whereas if you just come over in a small boat crossing to the UK or to Spain, you can just be allowed in without any documentation and any checks about your potential criminal history. That is scary for people.
Summer Rules says, if you have to literally spell out a fundamental rule understood across the globe, you are fully admitting to importing people who are a danger to our citizens. But touching on what Jennifer was just saying, is that the case, or is it a case of you have to tell people everything? If people are coming into a country, they might know what the currency is, for example. So you do need to give them information. Is it just because of the type of this information that we find it so shocking and the manner in which it's been delivered?
Look, I mean, if I go to a different country, I might need to know what the currency is, but I don't need to know that it's a criminal offence to rape somebody, do I? Come on, this is crazy stuff. This is basically them putting their hands up and saying, we are importing people who are very, very dangerous, and we're trying to reassure the public by saying, look, we'll put out some leaflets to tell them not to do this stuff. But at the heart of the matter here is that they know that bad people are coming in.
Okay.
Also,
Colin?
do you think that we would have had to have asked the Ukraine refugees or migrants? Do you think we gave them this kind of guidance? Because I can guarantee we probably didn't, and I think that says a lot.
It's an interesting point.
We're forgetting the privilege, and you know, we are lucky. We live in a country where we have equality laws, where we have laws about rape and harassment and genital mutilation. But that's privilege. You know, we're lucky. We live in Britain. And many of those trying to get here live in failed states where there isn't an education system, where there are horrible, horrific, male practices, and that's not their fault. We're lucky, and we need to embrace those who haven't had the fortune we have and give them the knowledge they need.
Yeah, but that's giving them a bit of a pass there, Jennifer, to say it's not their fault. I think, as a human being, I think when you're attacking a woman and she's crying, saying, "Stop, leave me alone," I think you're probably doing the wrong thing. I don't think you need a booklet, do you, to tell you that that's wrong. So come on, let's get real here.
In Britain, it was legal to rape your wife. There was no offence of rape if you were a woman who was married. So let's not kind of brush over our history. We've just
there's a lot of detail in those booklets, Jennifer, as you know. It's not just that stuff.
150 years ago, women didn't have the right to vote. They couldn't own property. There were all sorts of horrendous practices. So let's not pretend that we're squeaky clean. Let's just own the fact that we are lucky. We've had the stability, we've had the education system, we've had the legal system to progress our rights as women, and that's great. But let's not use that white privilege, if you like, to judge those coming from countries who haven't had the benefit.
Look, Jennifer, this has got nothing to do with white privilege. This is about common sense. It's about basic facts and the way that you treat people. And that we're taking some people, and a lot of them are coming from war zones.
100 years ago, your common sense would have been different, Colin. It would have been, well, women.
Oh, come on! You're telling me these young guys who are coming from countries with mobile phones, watching Western programs, etc., and they know that they want to come to the UK because we're a soft touch. You reckon they don't know that you can't rape somebody under British law, that it's different over here? Give me a break.
Okay, this could go on forever, so I'm going to stop it there. Colin, thank you very much. Jennifer, thank you very much. Emily, thank you very much. Get your comments in below. Share your thoughts. Do it just as nicely as these guys did.